Oh, for the phones? Cody, yeah. No, he took a day and about yeah, he's a great kid. Not wires on him cross, I just think he's got a future with three. You know? So, but yeah, he's really intelligent, well read, you know, passionate about things, but every now and then he gets a little imbalanced, you know, for whatever reason. Yeah. I think he tried to shoot 2 weeks ago, and he got like half an inch of my face, and I'm like, you better think real hard. I said, ever give me that kind of energy again? I said, I will understand that. He's like, I mean, look at me dead eyes. Like, he was taking him a minute to process it. Didn't say anything. And Gates was like, what the hell was that? I'm like, dude, talk to your play. You know? I know people that have gotten off year prescriptions of Adderall and Xanax and everything else from literally having a trip once a month balances them out. Like they were this. You know, they're either way too down, way too frantic. They were doing this, and it was just because there was so much going on in their head. They were buddy of mine, an alternative doctor, was like, listen, you know, you don't have to try to just let your fucking brain loose. Clearly, it's trying to tell you something. You know, and like change these kids' whole perspective. You know, I mean, white culture, Adderall and Xanax at the same time. Never refilled another prescription. Once a month, he goes on a vacation, day long, find a nice comfortable spot by himself. Sometimes he goes to like alone and like reads, you know, and sometimes he'll take a hotel in Vegas, you know, and just like get one with a view, you know. He said he spent 8 hours sitting in a chair right up against the glass on the 20th floor in Vegas. He said he spent 8 hours in that chair. Just fucking, he goes, I went on a run through the desert with a coyote. He's like, he goes, the water is, he goes, everything. He goes, but at the end of the day, you come out and there's you know, it's just weird. But yeah, so back to stuff like that. So it's like, oh, I'm on this. Yeah, CBD. Yeah, getting cannabis. There are more cannabidol receivers in the brain than any other type of element that exists in the brain. Like, we have custom designed receivers specifically for that thing, and there's more of them in your brain than any other receiver of any other type of thing. Why is that? You know, it's like, it works for her. It works for a lot of people. I do about 100 milligrams a day. I have to do it. How's that doing this right now? My joint, it doesn't show up. 0.003% THC. This is just flat.
We're going to give it a few minutes, guys, to continue your conversations, but we'll probably call this a 3-minute, 4-minute warning.
Try to avoid the tripod.
You're not on Facebook.
Huh?
Check in.
Yeah, new ones coming. Oh, wow. I'll find out on this one. What's weird is he's January 8th. So, in that case, mine. Nice.
Very good. All right, let's get this thing kicked off. What do you say, Daytona Beach? Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Welcome to 1Million Cups Daytona Beach. My name is Tyler LeCompte. I'm one of the organizers here. Where it's completely a volunteer group. So if you're one of our organizers, raise your hand for some of our people. Thank you guys for your time and your effort. If it's your first time here, and you guys don't count, if it's your first time here, can you guys raise your hands? We'd love to see who's new. Welcome guys, thanks for joining us. Well, 1Million Cups is part of a national entrepreneurial networking group event that happens in 170 plus cities across the US every Wednesday. So awesome for you for joining. Feel free to check out, there are a bunch of other chapters in the state of Florida, so look around a little bit. We've got a guest coming in this week from Orlando, so they've presented at 1MC Orlando, and did you see Tampa as well? With Visible. I got that. I like that. With Visible, they're going to be talking about empowering, the American dream, and we're looking forward to hearing what they have to say. They're out of Winter Park, so they've got a really cool story. So please welcome Sarah and Ramin.
Hi, I'm Sarah Sims.
And I'm Ramin Asgard.
We're Visible.
And we're Visible. All right, the immigration issue is a hot topic. There's no question it's a hot topic. When something comes up in industry and in social culture, whatever, the tech world, the entrepreneurial world usually works out solutions that, for whatever reason, policymakers are having a hard time doing. And one of the things that is going on right now is there's a lot of debate in this country about the issue of immigration. Our company deals with immigration, but we deal with lawful immigration. That's where we're focused, and our principal focus is on bringing the best and brightest to the United States and keeping it that way. And that's what Feasible is about, powering the American dream. I wanted to share with you some stories about the American dream. I hope you all can see up there. We have a couple individuals that there's thousands and thousands, maybe millions of people who've done many wonderful things, maybe some here who have a story to share. But I want to share just real quickly about these four. Daniel Aaron. Daniel Aaron fled Nazi Germany with his parents in the late 1930s. He came to America. His parents passed away a year after they arrived. He was an orphan. He worked hard. He attended college, got his degree, and founded Comcast in 1963, a Fortune 500 company. Elon Musk. Elon Musk is an immigrant from South Africa. He left South Africa as a teenager. He did it to avoid having to serve in the South African military, and when asked about it, he said, I did that because I didn't think I wanted to spend my time with the South African military, which at that time was very oppressive towards the population of South Africa. He went on to found PayPal, Tesla, and SpaceX. Sergey Brin. Sergey Brin and his parents were some of the last Jewish Russians to escape the Soviet Union. They came to the United States. Sergey Brin was a co-founder of Google. And finally, Zainab Salvi. She was someone who came from Saddam Hussein's Iraq in the early 1990s. And she founded an organization called Women for Women International that does a tremendous amount of great work. It's a nonprofit across the world to benefit women.
So what we're seeing right now is that visas to the United States, and that's visas, so that's, like we said, foreign talent, students, tourists, and all sorts of researchers, all sorts that are getting refused at higher rates than ever before. Just as qualified as previous years, but the visas to the US is way down. It's affecting a lot of primary industries like tourism, which we depend on a lot here in Florida, higher ed, and also foreign investment. Foreign direct investment is way down. And what we're seeing here is that is directly impacting America's competitiveness, America as a land of innovation and opportunity. Here's an example for the jobs in travel and tourism. As you see, we have a sharp drop here in 2015. And really, that's the numbers. It's $32 billion in lost revenue a year that we're experiencing due to these lower visa rates being approved. Visit US Coalition is trying to address that. Another thing is that it also, helps with, it's also the #1 US export for service, on the service side, and #2 just as an export, and also creates lots of jobs for US. And here we see, I know it's kind of hard to see, but we have a graph for foreign direct investment, and then also for higher ed. This one's really important. We've been doing a lot of research in this area because they're seeing unprecedented drops in international student enrollment. A lot of these institutions depend on that tuition because they pay full tuition most of the time to be able to support domestic students and be able to provide scholarships and keep tuition at a certain price. And so a lot of them right now are having to consider raising tuition at a time where that's very unpopular, and even cutting important programs like computer science. Well, also we have You Are Welcome Here is one, hashtag You Are Welcome Here is trying to combat that as well by reminding the world that most of us do feel very welcoming towards international students in particular. So in the STEM field in particular, we see, this is also kind of probably hard to see, but STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math, dominated by international students in the higher ed. So right now, as we're seeing these drops, that's threatening domestic students who basically, a lot of universities can't afford to keep those programs open for domestic students without the help of the tuition from the international students. So we're seeing people actually have to cut that.
And we want to emphasize, I mean, the key thing here with STEM, when you see 79% of graduate computer science students in the United States are international students, you see that industry, and it's higher, by the way, for engineering fields. And this is research by National Science Foundation. These aren't numbers that we, just kind of looked up. This is a real critical issue because this affects long-term American competitiveness and our tech industries. Now, I have heard some folks say, well, what about Americans? Why can't Americans, fill out these graduate program rosters, and why do we need people to come from overseas to do so? There simply just aren't as many. There simply aren't enough to sustain these high-level programs at universities across the country. It's not that there can't be. There absolutely can be. But that would take a very concerted effort of improving STEM education at the primary and secondary levels before there could be enough Americans prepared to do things like electrical engineering graduate degrees, computer science graduate degrees. It's not that they don't exist, it's just the numbers. So when we talk about American competitiveness, this is kind of the biggest of the big pictures. This is about declining foreign direct investment of $32 billion, 32%, I'm sorry, it's actually $200 billion over the last couple of years. It's about declining tourism, and it's about declining enrollment in higher education. So a little bit about us, because Tyler has said that you all would like to know about us, not just the company. All right, so I'm Ramin Asgard. I started out as an attorney, which is what a lot of folks do when they can't figure out what they want to do. They say, well, what have I got to lose? I'll go do some more school, and I get a diploma. So I started out as an attorney, but then I went into the Foreign Service. So I was a diplomat for the United States, for the Department of State, and served in many countries around the world, including Iraq, Afghanistan, Saudi Arabia, and some others. I did a couple tours as a consular officer. I learned a lot about visas. I did about 25,000 interviews for visas, student visas, family visas, tourist visas, investor visas, all kinds of visas. This company is a lot about what I learned there. And I'm also an immigrant. And I guess I'm real focused on this issue because I also have been spending time doing immigration law. So we met somebody in the audience earlier that did some immigration law. So that's the law field that works on the issue of immigration.
And as I mentioned earlier, I'm Sarah Sims. I come from a background in international migration, and I did a lot of research on that subject and also worked in that field, so I learned a lot about this, the struggles for immigrants that immigrants are facing, and the struggles for concerns over obtaining visas, even for very, very qualified applicants during that time. We actually met in our, what we call it, our why, in our passion, in Tampa over a year and a half ago, more than a year and a half ago, after some big policy changes in immigration. I think it was 9 p.m. on a Friday, and Ramin was giving a talk to some concerned international students at USF, and I think there was 2 people there that weren't actually directly affected, and so it was obviously people who were passionate there, and we've been working on projects ever since.
So what is, sorry. So what is our company? A lot of times all a company is a collection of experiences and ideas where you're trying to bring usually some kind of innovative solution. I mean, the idea is you're supposed to be doing something that other people aren't doing already. And so Visible is a company that's built out of the idea that we can address We can't fix everything. We know that. There's a lot. This is a complicated issue. We could talk about this issue, immigration, for a week-long conference. But what we're trying to do is we're trying to address a key part of that, which is the visa interview. A lot of times, folks have trouble at the visa interview and get refused visas. The refusal rates have gone way up, as Sarah said earlier. As a result, enrollment, investment, and so on. What the key point, and this is really important, is that a lot of people, I mean, this is direct primary experience we're hearing from customers who we've talked to. A lot of people are thinking twice about coming to the United States as tourists, as investors, and as students. Now, why? Because they think it's so hard to get a visa. They think, oh my gosh, I'm just gonna spend all my time, get ready, have these dreams, and they're all gonna get blown up at the visa interview. So our focus is on helping folks succeed at their visa interview, and then once they do, not to mess up their visa, not to do something where they lose that valuable visa that they gain. So some of our products, we're going to talk about them briefly. This isn't a product demonstration. Some of our products we're going to list them here, but we have much more detail that we can send you all as far as what the products are upon request. Our first product that we do, that we are aiming at, which we're very excited about, is kind of the flagship of what we do and is a little bit down the road, quite frankly, is a virtual consular officer. The virtual consular officer allows applicant for a visa to prepare with an AI-driven consular officer that includes all of the decision-making tree and processes of a real consular officer. It's informed by a consular officer. The algorithms are designed in concert with a consular officer. That's in development. That's still a little ways off, about 6 months. The rest of the things we are currently using. The virtual visa interview, we'll get into where that generated. First, virtual visa interview is a one-on-one, personalized video interview that the prospective applicant does with a former consular officer. Myself and other consular officers, we conduct the interviews with the applicants. They do it one-on-one, and we give them the exact taste of what it's going to be like. It's not a friendly session where you sit at a table and chat. It's a 2 to 3 minute session through bulletproof glass after you've gone through 3 layers of security in a room full of 300 nervous people. So, it's important that they're prepared. It's important that they know what's going to happen. And so we do that for them. Visa checkup is a real quick checkup, like a minute clinic. It's a real quick checkup. A lot of people have some urgent questions. We answer those questions. The Visability score, this is something we do where we give you like a credit score. It's, you fill out a questionnaire for us, and we give you, this is your probability of being issued a visa. This helps folks if they're deciding whether or not to try. This also helps institutions when they're doing recruitment and vetting. Visability report, like a credit report, is built off of the Visability score. The Visability report tells people this is why you got the score you did, how you can do a better job. And then finally, webinars and ebooks, that's not atypical for a company to have, just to inform folks about what they're doing. And then finally, the Stay Visible program is that part about once you get visible, in other words, you get your visa, you want to stay visible. So this is a subscription service that goes on after time, so folks can call and they say, hey, I'm on this kind of visa. Can I work? Is it okay to travel outside the country? That's a 30-second question, maybe a 5-minute question. If you go to an attorney, nothing against attorneys, but it's going to be a much more expensive process than paying a subscription service and getting your answer quickly. So we talked about the policy. We want to talk about, is this a good business? All right, we talked about entrepreneurs helping to provide answers and breakthroughs for issues that maybe the policymakers haven't been able to solve. And that's absolutely what innovation and entrepreneurship does better than anything else. And that's why I'm so excited to be here with y'all and talk about this, because we want to learn from y'all and see if this all makes sense to you. But Is it a good business? That's a TechCrunch article, which we can send anyone who's interested, about how immigration is a new disruptive technology that the entrepreneurial community is looking to provide tech solutions for. As the person writing the article is the CEO for a tech firm. And as I said, we can provide this for you if need be. Okay. All right, so we'll try to pick up the pace a little because we know we're already at 14 minutes. I get the note. All right, so what's our story? Let me step back a little, and we're going to share talking about our story. Our journey started out back in May 2017 with a company called Visa Prep Pro. That was where we started. Visa Prep Pro, all it was that one virtual visa interview. There were no products. There really wasn't a business model. It started out from within a law firm, which is not exactly an easy place to innovate. And I tried to run it part-time. I devoted, I know a lot of entrepreneurs start where they have a day job and they try to do something part-time. Well, I tried. And law is not, it's pretty demanding. And so I would say I got very incremental progress until November 2017. This person came along. And I'll let her take it from there.
Oh, sure.
Oh, here, you need this.
Okay, thanks. So then I came on for full-time business development. We were able to secure our first enterprise customers. So those are, I'm not sure, those are the customers that bring in large groups of international either tourists or students. So every semester, or a year, or just ongoing basis. So that really got us going. We also we then went into Starter Studio, which I know some of you guys have heard about. We were accepted to their accelerator program, and that's where we really worked on our business development model and lean startup, and really just make sure that we were constantly making iterations and checking in with customers and making sure we knew our market fit. And we also continued doing that in ICOR, which is the National Science Foundation. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute if we are allowed to, because it's a bit over. And are also now in a social enterprise accelerator as well in Orlando. So that's through Rollins, UCF, and then Starter Studio, trying to really get involved with the community.
Yeah, something I want to point out is that finding the right team, finding the right people is so important. We're going to go over our team in a minute. This would have never worked if I tried to do it part-time. I can say. It's a big leap. I know entrepreneurs, it's a big leap to take a leap of faith and go and do something full-time and not be sure about how you're going to pay the bills or anything else like this. But I can tell you it's very challenging to watch a dream gradually wither and die. That's also not a lot of fun. So it's a leap that we all have to decide one way or the other, but it's very, very tough. I could not have done it. I could not have done it without this lady here, and I could not have definitely done it if I had stayed part-time. And the reason I decided not to stay part-time is because of the accomplishments of this lady here when she joined. Where are we now? Well, we went through all that stuff. Starter Studio in Orlando, the ICOR at UCF, Innovation Corps. Again, as Sarah mentioned, a National Science Foundation grant. That was about the lean startup methodology. That was all about making sure that you understand your customers and your market before you go executing your business. Otherwise, you wind up burning through all your money, and you may wind up building a product or service nobody actually wants. And so that's why we invested the time there. And I will put up some resources that we discovered while we were doing it later. We'll talk about this. So we spent we did a whole lot of homework, let me put it that way. And we serviced existing customers, but we didn't spend a lot of time on building up our marketing and our business development elements for going out and getting new customers. And that's really where we have the growth now. We now know where we want to run, and we know where the markets are, and we understand the customers well. And we need to know how to go do that. So what we're doing is we're seeking. Did you go about this one? No, it was the last. Yeah, it was the last one. Yeah. I'm sorry, we're seeking seed funding for that growth that we're looking at. We've identified target markets, we've identified target customers. That's where we are. That is the key. That is the key. For anyone, anybody who's looking into the entrepreneurial journey, and we've heard this dozens of times from our mentors. If you don't know who your customer is, you're going to burn up all your money before you do you accomplish anything. All right, and we finally figured out who our customer is. We thought we knew who it was. Now we have a better idea. Okay. Sorry. All right. Real quick, Sarah and I, we talked a little bit. We have a tech partner that we've developed a relationship with, who's helping us with the AI development. They're also helping us with various tech things that they do with us that have to do with the algorithms and the back end of how we have our database of the data that we store. And then we are real excited that we brought on recently a director of sales and marketing to go after the enterprise markets, because that's very time consuming. And we need someone full-time to focus on that.
So we kind of mentioned earlier a little bit about the customer discovery process. So I don't think we need to focus on it too much, because we talked about it a little bit. But we were able to go to NASA, which is National Association of Foreign Affairs, Foreign Student Advisors, and we were able to canvass the entire industry. Basically, we were able to see everybody who was involved in recruiting and international higher ed, see international students as well as international educators and anyone in enrollment, all these different groups, and we were able to kind of ask them what the pain points were, validate and reiterate some of our assumptions, and it was very useful because we ended up being able to realize there were some things we found out. A lot of the universities were very frustrated because they actually don't have a way, most of them don't have a way of tracking the students who they've accepted, but then just they only find out they weren't given their visa when they don't show up on enrollment day. So they're expecting to have their tuition, and then all of a sudden people aren't showing up. So one of the things that we actually were able to develop from this is to have white labeling, a dashboard for the university, so that they can be able to track the entire process, as well as the students on that dashboard to be able to kind of help hold their hand as they go through the process. Because that was also something we learned, was that these international students were saying that they felt isolated. There was a very automated system. When they're confused, they didn't know who to reach out. Not really a good customer service number to call for the U.S. Embassy. So we were able to learn a lot by interviewing all of these customers.
All right, real quick. Our revenue model, how do we make money? What's the business about? That's really the important thing. We are a for-profit, we're not a non-profit. However, we do have a social enterprise component. We're an accelerator, or that's not really an accelerator, what is it? It's a program called Rally, which is a social enterprise program that supports nonprofits and for-profits that have a social enterprise aspect. So if anybody is in the nonprofit area, or anybody who has an entrepreneurial venture that kind of touches on issues that have a larger social focus, look up Rally. It's a very nice program. It's based out of Rollins College in Orlando. And it meets only once a week, so it's definitely something y'all could do once a week for a couple hours. So it's something you can do. Anyway, the revenue model. What do? Well, we talked a little bit about it. Individuals who come to our website through B2C, we'll talk about that a little bit, business to consumer, direct digital marketing. Enterprises. We're focusing on international higher ed first because the issue is so acute, the problems are so acute, and the need is so high. And then the other one I wanted to mention was licensing. What licensing involves is someone in market, in an overseas market, getting a license to distribute, market, and provide the service that we do. We have our first set to start soon in the Caribbean. There will be others, larger markets than that, but that is our first. Don't worry about all the big numbers. What I wanted to talk about right here One of the things that it's important to identify is what your market is. Our total annual market as far as the number of customers out there who are potentials. After doing the math, which is up there if you really want to check it, is about almost 13 million. We estimate of those 13 million people spend about $400 each in their preparations for their visas. Yes. So, this is a slide which the slide deck which an entrepreneur shows has the total addressable market. What's our total addressable market? That is, what is the entire expanse of the potential market that we could access if we had every resource you could imagine. 5.15 billion. And the reason it has a little globe underneath it is because essentially that's the globe. I mean, that's all the people that we're talking about there. That's huge. So what's our serviceable addressable market? That's a lot smaller. That's where, if we target where it's probable that we could focus with some level of efficiency, it drops to a mere 1.6 billion is the market. And this is annual, by the way, annually. However, where is our realistic, with the resources that we're able to bring to bear in the near term market target? We focus on international higher ed. We focus on the key market of India for students. And we focus on a couple other key markets for either tourism or students. $160 million here. That's the target realistic goal. All right, this is completely indecipherable now that I see it up on the thing. All right, what is that? I'm gonna really make this short because you can't see this, so I'm not gonna take everyone's time. This is called a value ladder. We're going to get to where we learned about value ladders a little bit later in some of the books that we learned from. Here's what we did. Here's something we learned. Here's a mistake, which was for digital marketing that we made. We started folks out at the bottom of the value ladder, which everybody does. You have a landing page, you have a website, right? People can see your product, people can see your service, right? And maybe you have some stuff on there. And then you ask them to do something, right? You're not asking them just to come there to read. You want them to buy something. We asked people who came to our website, read a few nice paragraphs written by one of us, to go ahead and turn around and spend several $100s without anything in between. What a value ladder is building products and services on the way up so that they build trust and they make a lower level, either what's called an opt-in. In other words, they move up, they give you their email. They move up, they download a free document, maybe give you something else. They move up, they do a webinar with you, which you charge a modest amount for, but you are able to build up their knowledge of you and the relationship with you, and then you can move them up to other products. This is a very, very, very rapidly developing field. We're going to talk about a book in this field, but a value ladder is a...
Okay, so these are our financial projections. And this is post-seed funding, because as Ramin mentioned earlier, we are looking for some seed funding or angel investment. And so with all the calculations we did earlier, we were able to project up to just in year 4 being able to get to 75.3, and the projections are actually available upon request if anyone wants to know more of the details as well as any of this information, because we've done comprehensive research on this. I'll skip through that for the next one. Existing solutions or competitors, we actually kind of call them cooperators, that's so hard to say that, cooperators, because they are areas that are kind of already working in this field, but the existing solutions aren't addressing some of the main concerns. So we kind of made a nice little graph here where we were able to fill in some of the missing pieces. Of course, an attorney is wonderful for doing the paperwork that's necessary. Same with agents and brokers, which are used a lot for especially international students. They're great with doing this paperwork, but they don't have firsthand experience in the interview or expert advice. It's kind of like, we kind of joke about this. It's like if you were to, would you trust being on a plane with a pilot who's only read about flying, talked to other pilots, and maybe has been on a plane himself? Maybe not. Maybe you'd want to talk to an actual pilot, right? Oh.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, over at Embry-Riddle, they train people to fly. And they go in simulators. They read about it. They have classes about flying. But guess what they do? They fly. All right? So if somebody had never flown a plane at all, they just done simulators and read about it and attended classes, and then they come out from the cockpit of the passenger plane you're on and tell you, hey, guess what? I did all this. You would get off. And that said, that's what a lot of folks do when they prepare now. They talk to people who've never actually done a visa interview about a visa interview. And the people have read about it, they've done all kinds of things involving it, but they've never done one, they've never given one, and that's what the key distinguishing factor is.
Yeah, and I want to add to that, that these are groups that we could work with to be able to fill in those gaps. DIY, do it yourself. That's something that's just basically, there's forums all over the internet where people are finding information, but it's cookie cutter, and it's one person can tell. One person can say their exact experience. Maybe that was a cue that we should probably stop talking
Yeah,
about.
we'll wrap up in just a second.
That was the last one. Okay, so we just have.
Yeah, let's put that up there for folks. These are some of the resources. Oh, I'm sorry. Can I just get the mic? Oh, did it turn off? Okay.
You're good. Keep going.
Okay. Real quick, these are some of the resources that we discovered on our journey, which were helpful in building out the business model. Again, we're happy to share this presentation with whoever requested. These were very useful to us. Multiple folks suggested this, and we did make great use of it. Let's do the last slide.
All right,
That's basically it, and then the next one. Okay. So we thank you all for listening. We told you a little bit about Visible. We told you a little bit about our entrepreneurial journey. We hope we left a little bit of time for Q&A. We went longer than our usual 5-minute presentation.
When you told us we could go on this.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Thank you so much. Thank you.
We'll use this one for answering questions if there are any.
Oh,
So,
This is my
all right. Round of applause. We like it. Yeah. Good stuff. All right, we got a few questions, so we'll just get going. Chris, you want to kick us off?
All right, good morning, guys. Thank you so much for coming over, making the drive up from I-4. Great presentation, great product, great brand. Love everything about it. My question is, so you decided to go full-time, dive into this thing. How did you, or how are you making life work? Because you went full-time. I'm assuming, I don't know if you're making money yet, probably not enough to cut yourself a paycheck. So for those of us that are considering doing this, a lot of people do it part-time. For those considering doing it full-time, how do you make life work?
yeah.
Just to be honest. Might just be quiet.
Can you hear? Okay.
I'll get you. Keep going. Be good.
What we did is we had a couple things. One, it was a leap of faith. Two, we got a small seed investment from friend, colleague. The friends and family round of investment is kind of pre the seed round, and we didn't really look for it. It kind of was, I really like this company, I really like what y'all are talking about doing, and we had none of this. It was just very basic at that point. And we were able to get a little bit of breathing space. That helped. That helped with that transition. But honestly, it's always a challenge. We were making revenue. We were making revenue even when we were part-time, when I was part-time. But it's a challenge. I mean, you get to the point where you have to make a decision on whether or not this is viable or is this not viable, and you set certain milestones for yourself. But what we did is we invested in the learning about the market part, and we did that as quickly as we could while working on existing customers. So what you are is you're working on fixing a moving car, and you're trying to survive at the same time. So it's not easy. If it was easy, everyone would do it. But part of it is we've got a good team, good people, and we're at a good stage right now. But it has been challenging. But I would suggest if you can get a little breathing space with a seed investor, that can help. Or a family friend, investor, that can certainly help.
Yes, I'm Paul Morton with Lifelong Learning. If you help students come to the United States, do you have any interest in seeing that they stay and fill those employment slots that you said that are vacant? And also, do you help businesses find employees to come here to the United States to fill vacant positions in the United States?
Sure, yeah, I can at least take the first part. We haven't gotten to, turned off here, all right, I'm gonna try to talk loudly. At this point, we're not helping people find the talent for jobs at this point and for employment. A lot of them already know they've zeroed in on the perfect candidate and they're just having trouble getting them here. So that's where we come in at that point, is to try to help them be able to smooth out that process. In fact, we have a 90% success rate at this point, and that's even with people that have already been refused, which makes it more challenging. So it's something for them. It makes it more challenging for them. So it's something that we do to help businesses that already have that. A lot of those businesses already have recruitment, especially the higher ed. A lot of them have recruitment already, and we're just able to help them improve those numbers.
Yeah, the other part that you mentioned was about whether or not we work with businesses to help recruit. We absolutely do. We have a business that we've been working with. One of our enterprise customers is a travel agency. Obviously, that's a business that's really tied closely to international tourism to the United States. But businesses in general, yes, they do recruit internationally. So we've had to be selective. Chris, you asked about how do you make it work. One of the ways you make it work is you can't, with the bandwidth you've got, you can't do everything.
Yeah.
So we've kind of very much focused on a couple key areas where we think the market will be able to have low-hanging fruit for us.
At the beginning, you kind of want to drink the ocean. You want to see anybody who's interested, you want to try to help them out, and what you end up realizing is you're going to spread yourself a little too thin. You have to have a target and be able to help. But you had also asked about international students filling roles after graduation. Is that right? Like open to staying in the United States. Right.
Once they graduate.
Right.
Yeah, that part of it is, I mean, we have the Stay Visable program that helps them keep their status, but if a student wants to go from student status to something else, they have to get a different type of visa. Yeah. And if you do that, you have to call an immigration attorney, or they have to do it on their own, which is really tough. So we don't do that. We help them get there and stay in their one visa status. If they need to switch over, you know, that's not where we focus.
That solution does already exist. A lot of competition for that here.
Yeah, Ron Smith, Global Engineered Solutions Group. You had up there feasibility score and report. I was wondering if that is something you created or if that actually exists.
Yeah, that's something that we created. Yeah, it's actually fascinating. I won't take everybody's time as to why we created that. Yeah. But basically, it's built up like a credit score. It's an algorithm that comes up with, I mean, if there's any like advanced statistics or mathematics people in here, we can talk about it offline. But basically, the idea is, like a credit score, it helps kind of decide whether or not you're going to be able to do this or do that, and how much it's going to cost you, or what the risks are.
Sarah's dying to chime in.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry. But I wanted to say, no, I love this. I got so excited when we came up with this together, and it was one of those things that we're just trying to solve something and realize, well, what if we can measure this? You know, and so with all the subject matter expertise, we were able to create it's an algorithm-driven score. And it's different for different visa types. There's all sorts of different drop downs, different countries, you know, based off your visa history, all of that. And also we have to be able to edit it immediately, because ever so often there'll be a pause on a visa, a certain type of visa from a certain country. And so it's a really interactive and exciting product.
Yeah, and I would just quickly add that because we're gathering data for the feasibility score, what it's doing is it's, sorry to be technical, training the algorithm. And when it trains the algorithm, that builds part of the bridge to the AI, because then the algorithm has, and the idea of training the algorithm, I'm not going to go into detail about it, but the main thing is you want something that's artificially intelligent to approximate or do better than a human would handle the issue. So you want it to be predictable and you want it to be accurate. And the more data you have, the more accurate it can be. And so the feasibility score gathering that data is valuable. If any of the entrepreneurs in the room, that is a big market by itself.
Yeah.
If you have large reservoirs of data, people will pay you for that data. All right, so we're gathering large reservoirs of data. It'll be a while before we have enough that it's marketable, but that's what the story is.
It's kind of like e-Visa Harmony versus a credit score.
There you go.
You know, it's like, are you trying to basically present that these are good qualified candidates? They need everything that you're looking for in a potential global international hire. They've got all the dots and the T's and the I's are all crossed, and this is kind of who they are.
Yeah, absolutely. It's part of their profile.
That's part of your profile. Very good.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Lori Sandman. I'm an attorney and a business law professor at Embry-Riddle. And I have a quick comment and a quick question. The comment is, I'm not an immigration attorney.
Sure, yes.
The comment is that as a professor at Embry-Riddle, my classes are enhanced so much by the presence. You talked about the competitiveness, but my international students, which are a fairly large component of the classroom, just raise us to a different intellectual level altogether. And it's just a pleasure to be teaching a room full of students with perspectives from around the globe. So to the extent we can get those numbers back to reasonable students coming in and learning in this country, I think that's fantastic. So the question is, sorry.
Spoken like an attorney.
The question is, I think, I'd like to ask you to define a little bit about attorneys cannot be business partners with non-attorneys, or you can't practice law from within the context of your business model. So I was wondering if you could just talk very briefly about that.
Sure, I'm happy to, Professor and Counselor. We started out as part of a law. We're not as part of a law firm per se, in that we were not doing law. This is not law. It has disclaimers all over the place. You're more than familiar with the folks up in Tallahassee with the Florida bar. The last people we ever want to get a letter from is them. So this is not law. But it was a private activity that a law firm was doing for a while. That wasn't the place it should have been. It should have been a private business from the start. What we did is we went through, Chris, another thing on the journey. Started out with the partners were lawyers. And I was a lawyer, so we could be partners, but even though it was non-law, that went okay. But we got out of it because, again, they're lawyers. I'm a lawyer. It's like being from New Jersey. You can pick on New Jersey. All right? They're not really that fascinated by technology. I have to say it. Some of them maybe. I want to meet these people.
Generally.
Yeah. So we didn't get a lot of growth in that regard. So one of the other things that we did when we moved out and took the lead is bought out the previous partners in the company who were lawyers. That was fun, doing a buyout agreement with 3 senior partners of a law firm. Anyway, so what we have is we have to make a disclaimer that we're not practicing law. I am an attorney, so I am actually foreclosed from saying, hey, I can represent you as a lawyer too, because then I meet the people from Tallahassee, most likely. So we do have to at some point engage with the immigration bar and work out a way that when people need lawyers, they go to those lawyers. So that's a little bit further down the road, but we definitely will do it. Did you want to say something on this?
Oh, no, just was going to agree.
She's like, no.
The diversity.
I was going to agree on that, yeah. I love that you shared that. That clearly got us excited. And it's true because right now, I think I read that 1 in 10 U.S. students are able to travel and study abroad. So that's a small number compared to what, 51% I think at your university, right? And so of international students being there. So if you're going to try to compete and work in a global marketplace with invite different ideas from all over the world. We need to be prepared, and having people from all over the world in a learning environment is really helpful for that, for the domestic students as well.
If I could title a Network Sync, just to chime in off of Embry Riddle, I think our biggest issue here in terms of global students and entrepreneurs, that are here in our community, specifically at Embry Riddle, is making sure there's a clear channel for them to stay here once they're done. To take the investment not only in the college that they went to, Embry Riddle or otherwise in this area, but also to say, this is the community I want to do this in, and making the channels easy for that. Now we've talked to some other individuals operating in this kind of bubble right now that are focused on helping them make that transition from visa to visa, et cetera. So I'm sure we'd love to kind of connect you guys. I think the real success is going to be creating a full-blown connected network of providers, from start to finish for their experience. So defining where you guys are going to be in that mix, where you can be, where you have to stop from a legal perspective, and otherwise I think is going to be best. So how can we help connect you with those parts that you're missing, because they might be in our network. That's what I would add.
Absolutely, Tyler. That is not a controversial topic. We started out with saying immigration is a controversial topic.
Yeah.
No one is saying that Elon Musk should have never come to the United States. No one's saying Steve Jobs' father should have never come to the United States.
Google, right?
Or Google shouldn't exist or anything. I mean, 43% of Fortune 500 companies were founded by immigrants or children of immigrants.
Yeah.
And that can happen in this community. It's not that, here's the thing, and I want to get on the right side of this. This is not a criticism of any policy. What the policy challenge that's going on right now is making sure that people who are going to make contributions to the United States are coming to the United States and continue coming to the United States. That is not a controversial topic on any side of the aisle or any side of the equation. So how we could be benefited by the community is network. Get the word, help us get the word out. We're happy to talk to businesses in international higher ed, especially tourism and travel, especially, but also businesses that recruit heavily. And then we can work with immigration attorneys. It's a gray area as to whether I can handle the legal cases myself, and I don't want to find out. So we can talk to the immigration attorneys or other agencies that you talk to.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sarah just reminded me, we are looking for folks to participate on our board of advisors.
Okay.
We have a few folks that have come forward, and we'd like to make it diverse. We think Florida has huge potential as an entrepreneurial location. It has a lot of things recommending it for starting a business, but it also has a lot of things recommending it for being an innovation center. Yeah. And so folks in this community, if any of you are interested, again, here's the thing. If any of you are interested in getting this presentation, there's our email. Yep. If anyone's interested in getting more details about our products and services or our financial projections, there's our emails. If anyone's interested in serving on our board of directors or volunteering, there's our emails. And if anyone has some complaints about how long our presentation was, ignore those emails.
There's Sarah's email. All right, I've got one more here. I think we're going to
I got a quick last question. Just to be clear,
yes.
By the way, this is Alex Sinek. I'm an immigrant. I immigrated from Hungary, and I immigrated to Canada actually, and then in the last, I came to the U.S. in 2002. It took me a while to get my U.S. citizenship, so now I'm a U.S. citizen and a Canadian citizen also.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And I went through a lot of pain to get it done properly. So just to be clear with what you provide, you actually, if I came to you, you actually get me my visa, get me my paperwork. I don't have to go to another attorney or somebody that does all of that. And what would it cost me? Like for example, I have a cousin in Hungary who wants to come to the U.S. Okay, he wants to come here to study, and then eventually he would like to live here, but he wants to come here to study and do certain things. So would I call you to get a hold of him, and what would it cost him to be able to get all of that done?
Well, thank you. First of all, congratulations on being a dual citizen of both Canada and the U.S. I guess your trip over the border is pretty routine.
It's pretty easy now.
Yeah. There's our website up there, our URL. You can check out the website. But since you're asking here, we'll do something for your brother, and because this is a community, this is a part of the family. So you're not finding us on the website. You're asking a question from the audience.
Right.
So we'll do something to focus on that. And then real quick, just as a follow-up, so please get in touch with us, and we'll take care of him and give him a very reasonable deal, which I think you'll be very happy with. Prices are on the website, but they don't apply here. But you mentioned citizenship, and before you can become a citizen, often you have to become a permanent resident. As we scale, as we build the engine for the AI process, we can also do this for other types of interviews. Now the thing is, there's a little bit of competition in that space. So I'm not going to say that that's next week, or that that's even absolutely what we're going to do. But it is an option to do other kinds of interviews as well. So green card interviews, naturalization, citizenship interviews are another place where we can scale.
Round of applause. Yeah, I think that's it. Thank you so much. I want to give you guys a gift, so thank you for being presenters.
Thank you, Tyler.
Yeah.